I'm ready for some high school football on News 12 now.
The sun is setting on the first half of the regular season, so we're counting down to the start of conference play. Let's get in a few more non-conference rivalry games on this Week 4 edition of the Blitz. East Duplin and James Kenan had their annual Swine County Slobber Knocker to help determine who is the best in Duplin County. Dixon tried to get a rare win in the Corral, while the Stallions tried to ride to victory for the first time this year. And Tarboro and Southwest Edgecomb had their annual function at the Junction. They're finding out who's the most excellent in Edgecomb County. Plus, we have the Viking Classic, the Baby Blue Bowl, and the Roanoke River Shootout. Oh, yeah! They're all things we just made up for this week. So who's ready to create some more football magic?
The Blitz starts now!
Welcome into another award-winning edition of the Blitz. This season chugging right along. Some teams will start conference play next week.
So this is the last full week of non-conference games and a chance to get in some rivalries, like the big one between neighbors James Kenan and East Duplin. It is our law offices of John Drew Warlick Blitz premier matchup, the Tigers home opener, honoring Dr. O, the superintendent for Duplin County Schools, who passed away this summer from cancer. James Kenan led 21-0, but after a third quarter score for East Duplin, Panthers hopped on a loose ball, and there's some life back in Beulahville's sideline. 21-8, make it 21-15. Sean Davis on the touchdown. Tim Grady asking for his guys to not quit now. So who do you hand the ball off to? To Lil Purcell on the counter, and his teammate gonna throw him into the end zone, and they have a comfortable lead, 27-15. But Sean Davis for the Panthers, he just couldn't keep himself out of the end zone, 27-21, but tick, the clock is moving, not on East Duplin's side. Battle Holly needing a stop, saying, get out of here, Luke, but a huge run from Purcell for the first down, and that would do it, as Holly knew there was just not enough clock, and James Kenan held on for the 6-point win, 27-21, back-to-back years beating the Panthers, and that's one happy sideline out in Warsaw.
It was just fantastic, man. These kids have worked so hard all the way back to January. Hey, before that, all the way back to last December, getting off the bus, fourth round loss. They said they want to win a state championship. We knew if you want to win a state championship, you got to win Duplin County first. That sets the tone, and so this was a really big game for us. And so I'm just so proud of the way these boys started and finished this game. So.
And some fireworks to celebrate the win. Up next, James Kenan against Spring Creek, and then East Duplin takes on Jacksonville.
All right, let's check out another Duplin County team that's undefeated. That would be North Duplin. The Rebels made their way to Jones County to take on the Trojans, who had their home opener at the backyard. Well, that triple option offense of the Rebels would have no problems, despite the great coaching effort by that Jones senior staff. They're trying to find ways to win, but they just couldn't get it done tonight, as North Duplin gets the pick six, and they get the 54-0 win, as they are still undefeated now on the season. Now, last week's Craven County Championship game between New Bern and West Craven had some carryover to this week.
Craven County coaches and players sign an athletic code of conduct before the season.
Craven County administrators say the two head coaches did not live up to that during their post-game handshake last week, so both head coaches suspended for tonight's game. So let's start with undefeated New Bern hosted unbeaten Cleveland without Terrence Saxby. Terrence McCormick was the acting head coach for the game against the Rams. Well, Cleveland, they're a pretty good team, and they showed why as they marched it right down the field early and often against that Bears defense. It's Cleveland looking pretty good. Then here we go again as Cleveland is going to come through. Porter Bennett had himself a game for the Rams, number 5 in all the highlights, and Coach McCormick and his defense, as he's the defensive coordinator, well, having some troubles. Here comes New Bern trying to show some highlights, and their super talented senior running back, their wide receiver is Kayshawn Taylor, and he does a great job getting New Bern all the way down the field and on the board. But it was all Cleveland after that, as they roll to the win behind Crishard Petaway and company, 46-6 to hand New Bern their first loss of the year. West Craven traveled to Farmville Central. Blast from the past, it was Clay Jordan who was the acting head coach for Mike Twitchell. Clay was the longtime head coach. The stadium in Vanceboro named for him. Well, here comes that West Craven defense, and check out the nice pick by Michael Wilson, and then Action Jackson on the sideline says, I'm here on the sidelines, and I'm going to watch DJ Davis go to work, looking for Xavier Cuthbertson. He catches him in stride. This was a close game at the half. West Craven was up 20-15, but Ron Cook saw his team get shut out in the second half as West Craven scored 28 points going away to win it 48-15 to improve to 3-1 on the season.
Two teams with high hopes to start the season, but desperate for a win, met up in Havelock. 1 and 2 JH Rose made the trip to Wilbur-Sasserfield to take on the winless Rams. Fourth quarter, Havelock up 14-0. Rose driving. How about the pass to Casing Chance down to the 1-yard line? That would set up the touchdown right here by Nishan Davis. Make it 14-7, folks. Rose is creeping back into this one. Their defense would come up big on the next possession as they would add another touchdown. Jalik Parson tied it 14-14. Rose gets the ball back with less than 2 minutes, driving 80 yards. They punch it in to go up 21-14, but Havelock still had one last chance, but they would muff the kickoff, and J.H. Rose trailed 14-0, but they come all the way back to get the win over the Rams.
Undefeated South Central had to get on the yellow limousine and make their longest trip so far this season to take on a yellow team. That would be Laney and Wilmington. The Buccaneers coming off their first win as they upset Rose last week. Well, Steve Brooks' squad feeling confident. They get the nice interception of the Falcons there. And then South Central trying to go to the air again. This time it's a sack by the big man along with Preston Hall. And then another pick, and you get the idea, as Kadorian Wallace and Laney, they get the win, handing South Central their first loss of the year, 31-15. Let's take you to the Viking Classic as White Oak travel to Kinston. First meeting between the two schools of Gold and Green since 2012. And what a wild game we had in this one, as it would be Tyreek Copper, the NC State bound product. He caught the TD pass, but here comes that defense by the Vikings as well, as they would get the TD by Jameer Brown. But hold on now, White Oak would make themselves a comeback in this one. Josh Smith airing it out, rare deep pass for White Oak as Edric Pineda gets it, and this one would go all the way down to the wire as Tyreek Copper is going to score again from the Kyle Ellis pass, but here comes Josh Smith one more time. A lot of scoring in the second half as White Oak would get the TD pass to Pineda again, and White Oak would return a fumbled hook and lateral with no time left, and the visiting Vikings go into Kinston and they get the win 32-26 in a dramatic victory for the ones wearing the yellow helmets. Woo! You think that was good? We're just getting started here on the Blitz. Plenty more highlights to show you, including a bunch of undefeated teams like Greene Central, Dixon, Jacksonville, all trying to stay that way tonight.
But we have our Coastal Carolina Community College fans in the stands. These ones from East Duplin out at Warsaw. That was a great game and a battle all the way to the end. We got more Blitz coming up for you in just a minute.
Thank you for watching the Blitz. Greene Central off to a pretty good start this season.
Yeah, undefeated. The Rams outscored their first three opponents 145-8, but they stepped it up in weight class tonight, hosting their rivals from North Pitt.
The Panthers 1-2 on the season, but look, they've been a little more battle-tested with games against Martin County, Ayden-Grifton, and South Central. They made the trip to Snow Hill, and it was another tight one for North Pitt. Check out the defense. The big boy is going to come up with the interception of the deflected pass. That is Jameer Blunt. And then to be blunt about this, it would be North Pitt at the goal line. Isaiah Wilson, one of them Wilson boys. Alvin says touchdown. Jay Wilson says, let me count this up here. Is that right? Oh, it's a beautiful sunset, by the way. But is that right? Well, here comes Greene Central right back at you. As 0 on the scorebooks, Dewan Cobb gets it down there, and then the quarterback is going to keep it. Joshua Setner, he scores. Greene Central holds on for a wild win at home, 40-36, as they improve to 4-0 now on the season.
And next up for Greene Central is Martin County. The Gators back at the Swamp. They hosted the Southside Seahawks, running onto the field. And how about this? On the first play of the possession, just give it to Josh Shepard, because the guy's going to go for a longer than a 50-yard touchdown. You saw that against Bertie. He's doing it the same thing as head coach Zach Wheeler, loving what he's seeing from his guys. How about another run? They haven't been with a QB for the last few weeks, so just continue to run it. Josh Shepard again, the flag waving in the stands at the Swamp as another shutout win, the second of the season for the Gators. How about this? Matthew Jordanson, he's getting a lot of looks from D1s, including ECU. That's a big reason why for the touchdown. Gators get the win, 58-0.
Right up the road in Windsor, Bertie, looking for its first win of the season, hosted rival Washington County from just across the Roanoke River. We're calling this the Roanoke River Shootout. Why? Because we can. Was it? Not really. It was a close game right down the stretch as you had Bertie getting into the end zone. That's Washington County getting into the end zone as... check out the nice interception as well. But Coach Pugh in those blue uniforms, as they were down 12-6, but here they come. Fumble snap, going to keep it, but that defense is going to come through for Washington County. And they're going to score. Javius Carter gets the pick up and score. Don't worry about the flag. It was Washington County going into Bertie and getting the 18-6 win.
Now, Croatan is another undefeated team off to a great start this season, but the Cougars' road game at Washington was postponed.
The Pan Pac dealing with some COVID issues this week, so the two teams will now play Saturday at 2 p.m. Let's check in on some other undefeated teams. Dixon made the short trip to the Corral to take on a Southwest Onslow squad looking for its first win. The Bulldogs only 2 career wins and more than 30 meetings with the Stallions. The last win, 2015. SWO trying to get rolling, and they would get into the end zone. It's been a struggle so far, but Mr. Williams takes it in for the score. And Zach Garvey says, I'm an alum. I'm not going to have sleeves. I want to get tough. But here comes Dixon. They are tough with that single wing as they take it in for the touchdown. That's Sean Delaney, and Dixon has no problems. They win 42-40, so they now are 4-0 on the year.
And another undefeated, Jacksonville was off last week. The refreshed Cardinals hosted winless Topsail as the Cardinals entered, and they were wearing their gray jerseys, looking good and feeling good. And how about Jacksonville on the rush? Or actually, let's just dump it off to our guy, Amari Benton, a little stiff arm. I'm going to cut up. Hey, you thought I was going to the right side of the field. How about I go to the left side of the field for the touchdown, as the fans were loving it, but Topsail not so much. Haven't gotten a win yet this year and continue to run it. How about this time, Anthony Washington looking good, and Jacksonville stays undefeated, winning 46-6.
Staying in Onslow County, the 1-2 Swansboro Pirates hosted 0-3 East Carteret. Let's call this the Baby Blue Bowl because both have that baby blue on their helmets. And Swansboro looking for its second win of the year. First quarter, East Carteret on the drive. Jackson Green is going to take it all the way down to set up a touchdown. A few plays later, we've seen this before. Luke McIntosh keeps it from his quarterback position. The second quarter, East Carteret driving again. Those Mariners looking for their first win of the year. And this time, it's going to be Jackson Green, back of the end zone, toe tap down. East Carteret up 14-0. But Swansboro and that flag and the Jolly Roger would come rolling back. The senior quarterback, Kevin Till. Wait till you see this. To Carmelo Beasley. And Swansboro does it. They come all the way back and get the win. 34-28 in overtime. Second win of the year for the Pirates.
Now on the other side of Onslow County, the 1-2 Richlands Wildcats hosted the 1-2 South Brunswick Cougars at Brock Ridge Stadium. And it was a little bit slow on offense for Richlands here. Not much was happening. The Cougars, a host of them, swallowed up the Wildcats. And Bill Good in his first year going over to his O-line and offense saying, guys, if you're going to cut here, get upfield. We can't be having this. But luckily the defense for the Wildcats looked good at first. A sack in the backfield led to a missed field goal. But even the cheerleaders' optimism couldn't stop the Cougars as Jaden Daniels, not the Commanders QB, but a different one, to Edward Young over the quick slant, and he had room to run. South Brunswick ran away with it, getting the win and getting redemption from last year's loss, 28-6.
All right, how about Pender and Wallace-Rose Hill? Another big rivalry game between the two county border warriors and the Bulldogs, trying to get right here. They came up that big win over Clinton last week, and they get the long touchdown run by Jamari Lamb, but Pender is going to come right back themselves as their quarterback is going to heave it down the field. And look at that juggling catch, and he gets it in as Pender, Jaheim Lamb, well, that's number 4, Zaquan Murphy. And then here comes Jaheim Lamb in for the TD. This was a wild one. Pender wins it in double overtime, 32-26 over Wallace-Rose Hill. All right, we've got your Battle Royale highlights coming up next. Good one and a strange one between Tarboro and Southwest Edgecomb. Hey, thank you for watching the Blitz. Time for our Battle Royale.
And when Tarboro and Southwest Edgecomb meet, it's called the Function at the Junction, and it's always standing room only.
Unfortunately, this latest meeting in Pine Tops marred by gun violence, and the game had to be called near the end of the third quarter. Let's show you what happened up until there. Again, pack stands in Pine Tops. A lot of people always there for a good time, and Tarboro was having a good time on the field. Jalen Farr McNair on the punt return is going to give the Vikings really good field position. And then down at the goal line, that Tarboro T, Tyler Powell is going to punch it in to match his jersey number for 7. Vikings up 14-0. The defense was looking good. Jaden Jenkins comes up with the interception, but then a gunshot was heard. Someone was shot near the concession stand with 1:38 to go in the third quarter. They cleared the stands. The game was called, at least for now, with Tarboro up 14-0. Jeff Craddock obviously not happy with the situation that happened.
Obviously, you're devastated. You're sad. I hope whatever happened, I hope the young man is healthy and has a full recovery. It's a shame, and to have an incident like this, obviously, is a black eye about our community, but it's not really, in my opinion, what our community really represents. So, like I said, hopefully everybody involved is okay.
So again, we're not sure of the status if they'll even try to complete this game or not. If not, Tarboro will take on Northampton next week. Southwest Edgecomb will be at North Lenoir. They're going to start Three Rivers Conference play next week if, again, everything works out in this situation. Speaking of North Lenoir, they finished up non-conference play by hosting neighbor Ayden-Grifton at Bullock Stadium. Chargers looking for their 3rd straight win. The Hawks trying to get back on the board after beating South Lenoir a couple weeks ago. Boy, they looked good first drive. Anton Black saw nothing but green in front of him. The 30-yard TD run on the nice spin move. And check out the chain gang at North Lenoir supporting the Blitz and their glow-in-the-dark wristbands. Well, here comes Ayden-Grifton. Loyalty Fuller. He glows in the dark, gets his guys out of the way, follows his blockers and in to tie it up at 6-6. Larry Dale's offense went a little chilly and has trouble after that because on 4th down, they cough it up. Ayden-Grifton would take over, and then Sean Pollard, this time number 13, is going to follow his blockers, break a tackle, and cross the goal line for the score. And then it would be AG with the 2-point conversion as they rolled in this one 38-13 to win their 3rd in a row. Now they start Three Rivers Conference play.
Let's check out our bonus games. Undefeated Northside traveled to the town of Hartford to take on the Perquimans Pirates. This game was all about number 24, Sincere Columbus. Folks, he didn't just have 1, he didn't have 2, but he had 3 touchdowns in the game for the Panthers. Jamari Whitney also had 1 too. This one was a breakaway score. Well, actually, that was just a running over a guy and bulldozing. But the Panthers getting the win, 34-6, staying undefeated.
Now to the Blitz Extra, highlights not seen on the Friday Night Blitz because, we've got some time constraints.
But we have all the time in the YouTube world to show you some of the other games around Eastern North Carolina.
Both Parrott Academy and John Paul off to undefeated starts. They meet the last week of the regular season as we look way ahead. But before we get there, let's show you some other highlights, including South Lenoir looking for its first 3-1 start to a season in 9 years. Visited winless Spring Creek in 7 Springs. Camarian Uzel Gra scores for the quick South Lenoir lead. Then Zion Carr, there he goes to the passing lane. He punches it in. Then Christian Wooten, we could go whoop whoop. Whoop whoop for Wooten. He's going to pass it to Tyshawn Johnson. Whoop whoop. He scores. South Lenoir gets its 3rd win, 46-6. Brandon Proctor getting the Blue Devils some wins.
3 miles away, 2-1 north side of Jacksonville hosted 1-2 New Hanover out of Wilmington. As Northside Jacksonville looking good early to start. How about Raleigh Anderson on the touchdown here, just fighting his way in for the score. The cheerleaders loving it, pumping it up too, as the run was shut down by Northside's defense, and the coaches were loving it. Kendrick Pollock, his assistant coaches, gotta love that intensity. Josiah Hill, though, getting the tip drill interception and diving for it. Monarchs, their first ever win against New Hanover in program history, 28-7.
That was a great win for Kendrick Pollock and company. Now Parrott Academy, the tough road test this week. 4-0 Patriots travel to Rocky Mount to take on undefeated Faith Christian.
A lot of red, white, and blue in the Battle of Patriots. That touchdown from Ben Barrett. Big shout out to Ryan Pittman for sending us the film. Then Dylan Rouse. Actually, this one's Braxton Lofton Myers in for the score, as the Patriots would find a way to edge out Faith Christian, winning 22-14, undefeated still on the year.
Undefeated John Paul II made the trip to Mary Hill in Bertie County to take on Lawrence Academy. The Warriors' 2-1 record going into the game, but here comes JP2 right up the gut. That is Gentry McKinn, number 7, in for 7. And then how about JP2's defense coming through? Getting the fumble and jumping on it is Micah Gray Hudnell. So JP2 pumped. The Lawrence Academy cheerleader said, all right, we'll keep going here, but check out number 21. This is a 90-yard plus TD run for Krishawn Williams. And John Paul does it. They stay undefeated with the easy 57-6 win at the Lawrence Academy in Mary Hill.
Mattamuskeet made the trip from Swan Quarter to Belhaven to take on the 2-1 Pungo Christian Raiders at the bus stop. And after leading 7-0, how about the pass and catch? No one near number 5 for Pungo Christian. Trent Armstrong with the touchdown. The Raiders were looking good in this one. And can you believe the final score, Brian? The most amount of points that Pungo Christian has ever scored, 83 points. I've never even seen that in a football game.
Well, the Lakers, when you score 56 when you're Mattamuskeet, that might be a school record for Mattamuskeet scoring points, but then losing is Alex Sefton and his Pungo Christian Raiders. Yeah, as I texted Logan, the AD, I go, that had to break records. I go, it broke every record we have for Pungo Christian football, which again, hasn't been around that long, but good win at the bus stop in Belhaven. D.H. Conley, tough road loss to Garner as they lose 50-19. Lejeune still struggling along as Union gets a rare win. Second of the year for them. They beat the Devil Pucks 34-0. And Currituck, how about that over Edenton Holmes? The Aces on the struggle bus themselves this year. They've lost some close games. A lot of points, though, scored around Eastern North Carolina Friday night. Clinton falls to rival East Bladen 26-20, while Princeton does it and hands North Johnson its first loss of the year. Well, Liberty Christian gets its second win of the year. They go to Fayetteville and beat Berean Baptist 57-24. One more set of scoreboards for you. It was Hobson getting its first win. They beat a struggling Rosewood team 44-18, and Charles beat Aycock 42-0 over Goldsboro, while Eastern Wayne suffers its first loss of the year. They go to Raleigh and fall to Middle Creek 59-35. So week 4 in the books. Gosh, we're more than a third of the way through the season, almost halfway through the season. We start conference play next week. And now that we've got 4 weeks in, we can kind of get a much better idea of
what they're made of.
What they're made of, who's contenders, and who's still got some work to do. One of the ones that jumped out to me tonight, J.H. Rose coming back. It looked like Havelock was going to finally get off the schneid, get that first win up 14-0, and their defense, one of their strengths, and then they let it slip away in the second half. And there's been some frustration with Rams fans. Now, Havelock getting ready to start conference play. We've said all along that's probably going to be where their season is makes or breaks it. But that's, I know, a tough one to swallow at Rams Stadium, losing another home game, their third one of the year.
But credit to Will Bland, credit to Jimmy Martin and that offense for not giving up and still finding a way to get the win. But, yeah, your heart goes out to Brent Wooten because, you know, the Rams were just so close getting that first win. And a win changes everything for the morale in the locker room, for the coaches. You can buy into a win and go off of that. But to have your fourth straight loss, that's brutal.
Will Bland, his second win, by the way, going back to Havelock. It's been a few years, but the old Havelock quarterback loves going back to his hometown and winning. Jimmy Martin was hurt in that game. We'll check on his status going forward with Rose. New Bern also had a tough loss. Of course, the coach is suspended this week. That didn't help. Terrence Saxby's the play caller there. He will be back now as New Bern has a tough road trip to Huff in Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, you go from Cleveland and now you got to go take on Huff. That's two of the biggest tests you're going to have all season, if not like the biggest test. But certainly his absence was missed. But how about Clay Jordan for West Craven, though, filling in for Mike Twitchell, and DJ Davis, and that offense just lit up the scoreboard against Farmville.
It was kind of nostalgic and neat to see Clay Jordan. Look, he's been coaching all along, but just to kind of see him pseudo in charge, the whole coaching staff stepped up in the absence of Mike Twitchell. And again, the defense looked strong second half there, and DJ Davis continues to get the job done offensively. So now West Craven, we'll see. That looks like they're back now. They're 3-1, and they look like a pretty good team. Well, Kinston, who had a lot of high hopes early on, another tough, close loss for them at home. White Oak, this is what we were told happened. There was untimed play at the end of the game. Kinston tried to throw a hook and ladder, which they've done so well in the past in scoring. Well, they fumbled it. White Oak scooped it and scored to get out of there with a win. So great win for Jonathan Bird and White Oak. He'll tell you he may not have the Division I athletes he's had in the past, but he's trying to maximize what he has, which are a bunch of hardworking kids at White Oak.
Well, Josh Smith looks great as their quarterback and another year returning. And whenever you have a returning quarterback in high school, that's always a great thing when you're not changing guys out through and through. Yeah. And that Viking Classic hasn't happened since 2016. Yeah. But I want to change it to James Kenan. Yeah. How about the Tigers beating East Duplin back-to-back years and first home win? And it was a tough loss for Tim Grady and the Tigers losing on the road at Southern Nash. They had a big lead against the Firebirds, but still ended up losing. But to get the win tonight, that's a huge boost for them.
You never like the moral victories, but for Tim Grady and James Kenan, losing at Southern Nash is a really good team, and they're much bigger. So for them, it kind of made them feel like they could still compete. Yes, they'd like it. It got away. Yeah. But I think it gave them a little morale boost going into the East Duplin game. They get out to the big lead. They hold on. But James Kenan, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now they start conference play. And there's new conferences around this year and all this stuff, but James Kenan is with Wallace-Rose Hill and Hobton and some of these others in the Swine Valley Conference. And I absolutely love the name of the Swine Valley Conference that James Kenan's a part of. But they're looking like now the favorite. Wallace-Rose Hill, the tough loss at Pender. But it looks like James Kenan may be, and we'll find out, but it may be the class of that conference going forward. We've got Croatan, Washington. We'll try and get some highlights of that for you. Croatan undefeated, 2 o'clock kickoff Saturday. So look for that online as well as we try to take care of that. And Dixon keeps on rolling. Beat Southwest Onslow. I believe they played 30-plus times. It's 32, 33 times. That's only Dixon's third win against their neighbors. So they've got it rolling right now.
Yeah, you said I think 2015 was the last time they beat them, so 10 years ago, a decade.
1982, I think, was the year before that. So there's not many wins in that.
Few and far in between.
In that rivalry. So, but Zach Garvey trying to figure out, look, Southwest Onslow got a few points on the board. That was good for them. They're still trying to figure out their identity under the new head coach this year. So a lot of things to still get done and figured out, but Swansboro, 2 wins is another one that stood out to me. And Northside Jacksonville, what a huge win. Looks like they could be. Look, now, you got Croatan, Dixon, Northside Jacksonville, and Havelock now, all in that conference.
And we keep talking about how Havelock's going to figure it out in conference. And while we hope that they do, Northside Jacksonville looks really good. Dixon looks really good. Richlands is still figuring it out. West Carteret looks good. And I don't know. I don't know for Havelock. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Rams in that conference.
That's why we play the game. 6 more weeks of the regular season to go, and we will be here for it. So that's it for week 4, except for the Croatan-Washington game. We'll get that covered for you, as well as everything else. Thank you for watching this week 4 edition
of.
You got to commit to it.
The Blitz.
The Blitz.
How do you get down that
I
low?
have no idea.